It's literally Roots Reggae Hub style pull up. We have had some technical difficulties. I thank you for those that have joined in and for you those that will be returning. So we're gonna move along and do our best to get Phyla back on board. I'm going to actually, just for the sake of recording, okay, there she is. We're gonna bring her in. Let's get this first and foremost. I'm gonna invite you, Phyla. It's really saying you're unable to join. Wowzers.
Finally!
I have no
Yes,
idea.
we give
Always a
thanks.
new trick with Instagram that you gotta navigate and ah,
Well, I'm happy to get through. Happy to be here with
I,
you.
I am so happy to have you. I'm actually gonna do in Jamaican style, we say pull up.
Yes.
Pull up on your bio. Just honored to have you with us today. I mean, my thinking is already changing as I've began to study just what you have to offer as a wellness coach. So those of you that are tuning in again, I'm just going to pull up and tell
Yes.
you about our sister Fila Antwine that has joined us today. Fila Antwine is an award-winning wellness, self-care, and relationship coach. She's an individual who serves her fellow human beings with compassion, intellect, and true understanding. Fila's lifelong mission has been to help others triumph over tragedy just as she has accomplished herself, overcoming childhood abuse to become who she is today, a happily married wife, proud mother of two wonderful children, an advisor to countless women seeking lives of greater hope and fulfillment. Phyla Antwine is the author of two important books, Strengthening Her Essence, A Woman's Guide to Liberation Through Truth, and a special workbook for children promoting diversity confidence called Curiously Coiled. Today, Phyla is an acclaimed life coach who offers healing, holistic, spiritual confidence building classes, programs, and talks for women emphasizing self care and relationships. The Wall Street Journal, New York Post, Huffman Post, MSN, the New York State Senate, and the Emmy winning award talk show Fresh Outlook has recognized your expertise and your ability to help others overcome personal challenges. Um, it says here you welcome and you believe in dignity and the worth of
Absolutely.
a human being, and that gender equity is essential to the thriving society. Um, Thank you for being here and welcome.
Thank you for having me. It is an absolute pleasure. I appreciate you making space and allowing me to share space with you, Sharon. So thank you.
Oh, wow. And I'm just, as I said, I'm honored you just listeners. We're tuning in today. We're going to be talking about the chase. But before we talk about the chase, I want to be able to look into your organization, what was behind it.
Mm,
You have an organization I read about called Queendom,
yes.
Sacred Queendom. If you could just tell our listeners a little bit about Sacred Queendom and what motivated you to go down this path, what prepared you for such a calling.
Sure. So Sacred Queen Co. is my company, and that is how I provide access to coaching, to self care, and holistic wellness resources for women. Sacred Queen Academy is my signature program that I use to provide coaching for women, in particular Black women, because it's important that we see ourselves in the wellness space. And I decided to call my space the Sacred Queendom because I genuinely, truly believe and know that every single woman is sacred, and every woman should get the royal treatment from life and from love. And so I teach my clients how to position as the sacred queen in their own lives so that they can receive the royal treatment, so that they can attract those things that are of abundance and that are worthy of their inherent value. And so the queendom is a safe space where women are able to come and to learn the strategy of dating, the strategy of relationship building, and also the magic and the power of honoring yourself in that space. And there weren't any spaces that spoke to me as I was on my own healing journey. And so I decided to create what I didn't see.
Wow, we appreciate you. I said in our dialogues, thank you for making the decision to follow your vision.
Yeah.
Again, get onto her master classes. I definitely need this because to really identify what healthy relationships look like, it is by design that has impacted, particularly African relationships. We were broken families. This is something that needs specialized, hands-on. Often people will go to, see therapy, and they need these safe spaces. They need someone who could identify and have solutions, right? I realize that you have solutions.
Yes.
You could take this from, as our brother Chevy says, from slave ships to relationships. You have the answers. Because at first I was like, what is this American girl with this American narrative gonna tell us Canadian Pasio? Was it? I think we talked like somewhere in 2022, and I was like, nah. And then as I started to get onto your wall, even more so in this past week, I don't even know if my questions made sense to you. Because
they absolutely do. I'm with you.
I appreciate your candor with regards to the truth. I didn't even know you had an Audible book, but you have this lovely voice that is gentle. It's honest, the truth, what spits the truth, and I truly appreciate it. It's very humbling and necessary. It's urgent. So today we're going to talk about the chase.
Yes. And if I could just kind of build or just respond to what you said, right? Because when you initially reached out, and I think that it's so poignant and so brilliant and telling of who you are and how much you care about what you do, that you were particular about the cultural differences that there are across borders, right? And wanting to make sure that your audience is going to get something that they need. And even in our conversation then, I said to you, I am US based. However, there are some foundational things that connect all of us across the diaspora.
Yes, those common denominators.
Yes. And so there are those foundational things that make us all brothers and sisters, that connect all of our experiences. And if you are a Black person living in the world, we can see ourselves in each other if we simply allow the space for that to happen.
Yes. And even in the words of Malcolm X, it says that the Black female is one of the most underappreciated human beings on this planet. And we want to learn how to, increase our value. I've learned about the landscape, so we're going to talk a little bit into that.
I'm excited.
And so let's just look at, the chase. Actually, you mentioned the keyword, sacred.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have to go there first in terms of self-worth. Where do we feel you want to begin? Because I've had a lot of questions, as you can see,
I'll go wherever you want to lead the conversation. If we want to start there, because that is sort of the foundation of it, we can. So, self-care is a really lucrative industry now. And it's like one of those buzzwords and those things. And when people think about self-care, and especially Black people, because we have such a layered history and legacy of trauma and oppression and violence, we often are misinformed about what it means to take care of ourselves. And so instead of actually practicing self-care, what we do is we practice self-indulgence, because we're trying to move out of our history, move out of our pain, move out of our trauma. And so for me, it was important to differentiate what I mean by self-care. And so making something sacred means that it is connected to, coming from, and in relationship with that which is divine. So it's bigger than you, it's higher than you. When you look at yourself as a sacred woman or as a sacred being, you know that you now have an obligation and a responsibility to show up in the world differently, and in essence show up in your relationships differently. So it is about recognizing that you are a sacred woman, that your self-care should be sacred, that it's about having sacred relationships, and remembering to bring spirituality and to bring God into the space wherever you go.
Beautiful, beautiful. You know, often I've asked actually, once we get into this sacred space, like I remember in a relationship where I'm just glowing. I'm taking my morning walks, I'm doing my breathing, I'm like there's a point in my life, and suddenly I'm attracting all these kinds of birds and the bees and all these kinds of men. And often I find that, Black women, we've been sexualized over cherished or respected, without even doing it, where, this is the instinctive approach. How is it that we can, slow things down and, create that chase?
So,
And really manifest that man that we desire with intent,
yes.
Because we have to know that we're worthy, and I'm learning so much. Please share with our listeners today. Again, I'm just going to stress we have here today wellness, self-care, holistic coach, relationship coach,
yes,
Fila Antwine. So please, if you could just bring it to us,
Yes. So first of all, let me backtrack, and I just want to say thank you for pronouncing my name correctly, because I know it's a doozy. It's a doozy. And I'm actually named after my maternal grandmother. So much of this energy and this wisdom I know is connected to her energy in that way. So thank you for that. So, a couple things. Black women are some of, if not the most beautiful women on the planet. We come in all shapes and sizes and colors and complexions, and there's such a beauty and such a natural sensuality to us in the way that we are shaped, in the way that we move, in the way that we connect. We just have such style. And I believe that when others came into our culture, they didn't know how to receive that power, right? That feminine prowess that we had. And so they could only connect it to sexuality. They didn't recognize that that was part of our divinity, part of our magic, right? Part of the way that we heal. Exactly. And so it was minimized into something that those others who came into our space could understand, because they weren't able to overstand what it was. And it became something that attracted others to us, men in particular, European men coming into the continent and lusting after Black women, lusting after African women, and sexualizing us, using us, positioning us for their pleasure and only their pleasure, right? And so they wanted our bodies, but they didn't want the power and the magic that came with our bodies. And a story had to be created to validate their behavior toward us.
Wow.
And this is where the narrative of the over-sexualized Black woman came from, because white men had to make excuses for why they were literally raping our ancestors. They had to have a narrative to tell themselves, they had to have a narrative to tell each other, and they had to have a narrative to tell their white wives as to why they were getting in bed with these beautiful African women. And that's where the narrative of this hyper-sexualized, over-sexualized Black woman comes from. And we see that it's still present and prevalent today. And unfortunately, even young girls are sexualized from the age that they can kind of walk and talk and are out of Pampers. And so really what we need to do is we need to take back our story. We need to reclaim our power, and we need to own our feminine prowess, our sensuality, and our bodies as well.
Right. It's funny you say own our sensuality, because this is something that shame has been placed on it, rape has been placed on it, all these abuse has been placed attached to it. I remember even, maturing as a young girl and wondering whose hair is that on your underwear? Versus I'm going through puberty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? These are narratives that we definitely have to change. It's funny that you go back to your grandmother because it takes, I think, some generations and some time and some life coaches like yourself to really, bring into place solutions because I truly appreciate, as I said, you just taking this time to um, learn, about the wellness, prove, tried it, and it's key, and I want to learn more about this chase because, I mean, I've tried to create the chase, or it's not even create the chase. It's maybe I'm staying the chase. Where you're, I've tried jealousy, where I'm a wanted woman, and then suddenly you look promiscuous, like who's this guy, or he's jealous, and it's like you're weeding out these guys with different tactics, but they're not really generating the chase. I want to know, like, is the chase something that goes on forever? Is this something that, what do you, and before you even start the chase, what are I think I've learned, what are the position?
So more than anything, the chase is not for you as a woman, right? The chase is for him. As long as you are positioning yourself as a chooser, you will attract chasers. And one of the problems is that sometimes we're just not patient enough to sit still. And so we go out and we start chasing. And then that completely throws the balance off. And so even what you said about, wanting him to see that I'm a wanted woman and creating this energy of jealousy, what that does is it attracts predatory men into your life. Men who have anger problems, men who have jealousy in their past, men who have mother wounds. And those are not the partners that you want. So really, it is only your job to position yourself. Position yourself to be the chooser. And the way that you position is by reconnecting to your sacred femininity, by getting in touch with your sensuality, by healing any intimate, sexual, or emotional trauma that you're carrying so that you can clear a path for the right partners to come into your life. And when I say chase, I am not talking about a literal you running away from him and he's running toward you, but it simply means the game, right? I'm not talking about the game.
Okay.
When I'm speaking about a man chasing you, I'm speaking about you being in your feminine position. Feminine energy is receptive, it's open, it's nourishing, it's nurturing. And you allowing men who are aligned with your goals, aligned with what you want in a relationship, aligned with who you are, to come into the space and to pursue you, right? To chase is simply about pursuing what you want until you have it. And once you choose that man, there's no longer a chase because now we're partners. We're creating together. We've come together. We're building something. So I've already chosen you. You've chosen me. Now we are submitting together in this space to create something bigger than ourselves.
Okay, because I was like getting a little concerned that at some point, like with the chase, like, what will there be ongoing chasing? We like always have to be creating this interest. Is because that, to me, I was looking at it like, wouldn't that create leverage between, like, I've seen it where it's like there's that leverage even when men kind of do it in a funny way. I don't want to genderific, but when they do it in a funny way where they might create the chase of breadcrumbing you and making you thirsty, and that's not even creating the chase. That's not an organic approach.
Not at all.
Turn off for
that's a part of the game, right? That's a part of the game. That's inauthentic. That's you giving me just enough to keep me coming. But what did I say, right? Women position. So you're not supposed to be following his breadcrumb trail. You position. You have your requirements. What is it that you need as a woman to feel safe, to feel secure, to feel seen, to feel acknowledged, to feel loved in partnership with a man? You need to know those things so that when you are pursued, you get to have the conversations with these men and say, here are the things that I want to experience in a relationship. And here are the things I'm willing to give my partner as well, right? I want a partner who I can submit to if that's what feels good to you. Or I want a husband who I can nourish and I can nurture. I want someone that I can build a home and a life with. So it's a conversation about what you're willing to give and what you are requiring to receive as well. If it aligns, if you choose that partner and you choose to move forward, there is no more chasing. So we're not playing a game here. You are positioning to receive the man who's going to rise to the level of your relationship requirements.
My goodness, you know, I'm wondering now, but if you now, we do have some questions I do see popping up in the live. I want to encourage you guys to put your questions and your comment in the question box as well, but we're going to look at those questions as well. I'm curious to know, like, you know, here you are, you know, you're excelling, you're building yourself, you know, your inner self, you're looking good, you're doing self-care. How do you know who's worth your time? Like, can it not just be exhausting trying to pull that person's energy? Like, honestly, I feel that like we're looking at a lot of broken, if you have a desire to be with brother, you're dealing with a lot of broken males. I can't say men. I can't even say the word. Men hard, and then you don't. I look at other groups that will tarry with the same broken man, and it figures it out. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying I don't know what they're putting up with, but
we, you
what
know,
would you say
we have a lot of trauma. We do, and I think we're finally at the point where we're actually ready to have the conversation and say, "I'm hurt." Right? And here, well, I'm hurt too. That's the first stage and the first step of it. And what I often notice when it comes to the culture of relationships between Black men and Black women is that when we come together, we have an opportunity to help create healing for each of us or to deepen the hurt for each of us. And that's whether we move into intimacy and partnership with one another, or if we're just coming together as sister and brother. And most often we choose to continue the hurt with one another, as opposed to being a beacon of healing and having these honest conversations and saying, listen, these are my issues, these are my challenges, here's my trauma, and here's my trigger. But the thing is, most people are afraid to be vulnerable and afraid to be honest about those things, because you believe that if you share that, you're going to be taken advantage of again. You're going to be disappointed again, or you're going to be hurt again. And so really the first step in attracting the right partner is to step back and figure out how to be a good partner to yourself. How do you resolve those things that are blocking you from feeling worthy, feeling valuable? What are the emotional traumas in your past and the family legacy that you really need to deal with? And taking a look at those things and making that the priority first, so that you are shifting your energy and you're attracting better potential partners from the start, before you open your mouth. Energy precedes you. And so if your energy says, I'm not worthy of love, I am not valuable enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not smart enough, I always attract the same kind of men, then guess what? That's what's going to happen. So it's always the women who are positioning themselves by being a good partner to herself, by focusing on her inner work, her inner healing, that more easily attract higher quality partners.
Yes. Now, I've also looked at where you know, we're looking at the attract. I mean, there's so many things that you bring to the table, right? Because it's like once you've attracted that partner, sustaining that partner is the next reality. And I mean, I like, again, it's tricky for sensual beings. You know, actually, a sister, or brother, I think it was Steve Audie's like, what are your suggestions that in dealing with sensual of the queens in this time, especially going into divine feminine age? Because how do we keep the goodies? Like, you know, how do we keep our goodies in check? Like, what are some real checklists? Because you're attracted to this person, Maybe your energy has, brought this person into your life. You're totally aligned. I actually, like, I met somebody 2 years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I was dizzy. I'm not even gonna lie. Every time I was with this person, I would be dizzy. I'd be like literally under a spell. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
Was
really,
this before or after intimacy?
after intimacy,
Okay. So here's my number one rule. If you are
they know them.
if you are dating for a relationship,
Okay.
90 days.
Yo, you went down low.
Can you hear me?
No, yeah, I can hear you. If you're
Yeah.
dating for a
If you're
relationship,
dating for a relationship, no goodies for 90 days.
that's what she says. It's like it's not a joke. It
It's
really
not a
isn't a
joke.
joke.
If you're just having fun, if you're just kind of experimenting, that's something else, right? But if you are looking for a relationship, no physical intimacy for 90 days. And here's why. There are a couple reasons, right? The first reason is because once you are physically connected with someone, you are no longer able to make unbiased decisions about that person because now their energy is wrapped up into yours. So you really cannot feel your own emotions clearly. The second reason is that physiologically, as human beings on the foundational level, we are engineered divinely to procreate. So that sexual chemistry is so that the world doesn't end and there are always more humans. But that doesn't mean that it makes sense for the long run. And the third thing is that men are hardwired for that chase, right? And in those first 90 days, he is following his body's cues. He doesn't know if you're a good woman. He has no idea if you'll be a good mother to his children, if he wants to marry you. What he knows is that his body is responding to you and he's following the cues of his body. But after those 90 days, physiologically, his testosterone begins to drop. Now he can see you more clearly, and the two of you can begin to bond in a way that is outside of sexual and physical intimacy. So you can decide if you like each other simply as human beings before you jump into bed and all the energy mixes and you haven't even had time to get to know who either of you is, right? And when it comes to women, I know that we are all free and it's about equity, and we believe that we should be able to do anything we want with our bodies, and yes, you are able to do that, but you also need to recognize that your body is a receptor. Whatever comes in stays in, and what stays in you hold on to. And so each time you have sex with someone, it impacts your physical, emotional, and psychological makeup. And that's what makes it harder to make those educated, smart decisions. So
And the spiritual.
90 days, at least 90 days.
So pretty much that is one of the do's of the chase is that you better hold on to those goodies.
Right.
And it seems so basic. Any tips, like literally, like I know like there's like tips like stay in heavily populated places. What about dating many men? You say go
Yeah,
for it.
I say date them all. Date them all. Date them all. Right? Because there's no physical intimacy. You're dating. You're
dating.
getting to know people. Yeah, so
Do
you
you,
want to go ahead and give yourself options. The goal is for you to have options to choose from without being clouded by sexual intimacy. So you make the most educated choice and the best choice for you. Right?
yeah. Rose says don't go into his home, Low.
No, public places, public dates. And what's really important is that in the beginning of the dating phase, you two are training one another. So each of you are being trained on how to show up in the relationship. If you are going on the first or second date to someone else's home, that's a really lazy way to date. Take some action. Show me something. Let's go out. Let's experience things, because that then will follow through in the relationship itself. And it'll be one of the things that make sure that the relationship doesn't get stale or boring too fast.
Wow, thank you so much. That is key. You know, I know that I didn't put this in your questions, but the difference between dating and courting, if you could just touch a little bit on it, because it's something that I'm like I'm getting it, as life goes on, you kind of get it, but
Mm-hmm.
I truly don't even know how to navigate it. I know maybe based on, finding that common denominator with someone whose intention is to marry, but I don't know anything else.
Yeah.
What would you think about?
So I think in this day and age, if we're being realistic, um, dating has to precede courting. So there should be a dating stage, right? Previously, in more traditional societies, there really is no dating. There's just a courting period where folks are put together and, the goal is marriage. But in our day and age, we need to date. We want to get to know each other. We want to see what we like, what we don't. And that dating stage is where you are finding those potential perfect partners for yourself, where you are choosing the ones who could be an option. Once you're in the courting stage, that is where I believe you step into exclusivity, right? Where you are being exclusive, you're exclusively dating someone and you are dating with the intent to move towards marriage. That's a more serious, more committed level of dating where we have decided that we like each other, that we want to take this further, and we want to potentially become married partners. And so
Okay.
there's a different level of responsibility in each, because now it's okay, we're going to work towards building a family together. We're going to work towards, being together and connecting in that way. So courting is specifically about moving towards marriage. Once you have gone through the dating stage, once you have chosen the partner who aligns best with you, and the two of you are now exclusive and have decided that you want to see if this can go into the marriage stage.
Yes. It's funny, just having this conversation with you, it sounds really petty because I'm so young. So I'm not young. I'm so young. I'm not so young. It dispels this 90-day, it dispels the myth of, because I've actually had it mixed up. Sometimes you feel that after 90 days, this is when they're gonna, this is when we're supposed to move into courtship, but really we're supposed to lock the goodies off.
Yeah.
And then maybe you have that
Right.
courtship. But I'm learning, like, even with the dating, and not that I'm giving my goodies out before 90 days. There's ones that you just, there's no one has an option, really. It's hard to find an option, really, truthfully. When you kind of get thirsty, it's like, yes, you're a good man, you're a good man.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But needless to say, and your body and your physiological just takes over, right? But I've got to see, like, that tried, tested, and true. And sometimes even with dating, like, honestly, you can get disappointment. But I've had this guy since summer disappoint me, like, I think like 4 or 5 times. And
How so?
like this disappointment, like no show, totally forget, like, and I'm not even planning this stuff. He's approaching me, but then he really wants the goodies.
Yeah.
This is the
Yeah.
truth.
4 or 5 times, he
Like,
shouldn't get 5 times to disappoint you. 3 times. 3 times.
oh, okay.
And that's it, right? Because you're dating. You're dating.
Yeah.
You haven't even gotten to the place where you're courting, where you owe someone that much runway or that much leeway. And if you are positioning yourself, he should be showing up to show that he wants to spend time with you, that he's interested in you. So if there's one time and something happens, okay, we can plan it another day. Things happen, we're human. If it's a second time, then that's when your radar should go up, and there needs to be a legitimate reason why. If there is a third time, that's when it's over and done with. It's over,
I think it's
done with.
because sometimes, again, it's that thirsty, or trying to give that brother a chance, trying to coach him, to what you desire in the man, when really in truth, you got to keep on, I think, just elevating oneself, elevating one's frequency, maintaining that frequency, even when you do meet them. Again, for me, I felt I met Mr. Right. I still love him. You know what I mean? I felt I met Mr. Right, but I honestly, when I was with him, I'd get dizzy. But nor did he I really did not have to, but it was 2 years. He didn't have to work that hard enough. And according to someone, Steve Addy says 6 months, no pum pum.
Not 3 months. 3 months.
I know, but just say 6 months. I know that I heard 3 months. I don't know what to say. No, that's what I'm saying. But it's hard when you really are attracted to someone. You know what I mean? It really is, but it's essential for that healthy relationship. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
And the thing is, you are into, and it sounds cliche and it sounds kind of corny, but when you are spiritually and mentally and psychologically connected to someone, the physical intimacy is better because you feel comfortable, because you have a sense of who the other is, because you are willing to nourish and nurture your partner in the act, and they're willing to nourish and nurture you. And so it's not just about I'm going to get mine and you're going to get yours. It's how can I please you and you wanting to please me. So it becomes an even deeper level, which brings about more pleasure. And ultimately, it is about self-control. If you lack self-control, that
Yes.
is a dead giveaway that there is some emotional trauma brewing under the surface that you are not dealing with. Because an emotionally and psychologically healthy person says, I know I'm valuable. I know I'm worthy. I know there is abundance and there are tons of fish in the sea. So if this fish passes me by, another will come along.
Mm.
But someone who has that emotional trauma says, I'm not sure I'm valuable. I'm not sure I'm worthy. And if there are any fish in the sea, I better grab the first one that jumps up.
And I'm guilty of being that person, or the first good one, I would say. I like if you like, you might have a quality of a certain man,
Mm-hmm.
but you just jump at it, and suddenly that worth,
Mm-hmm.
that value is not there. Especially being a sensual woman, we move a certain way,
Yeah.
and it's true that it's so good, it's too good. You know what I mean?
I'm
There's it's
extremely sensual, right? I am extremely sensual. I'm naturally flirtatious. I'm so womanly and so feminine. And so that
yeah.
does draw in a lot of attention. But I've always had to recognize that folks are attracted to you in the beginning for what they need, not what they can give to you. That initial attraction is selfish and self-centered. It has nothing to do with you. It doesn't matter how beautiful of a woman you are, how sensual of a woman you are, how sexual of a woman you are, how accomplished of a woman you are. That initial attraction is about that man wanting to meet his own needs. And it's not wrong
Mm.
or bad. It's just human.
It's human.
It's
This is the
human.
thing. It's human. I mean, truthfully, we do have to take time to make those connections. I know with doing some of your master class, I haven't done it yet, but I will be doing it. I need it, right? Like I definitely need it. And then you have like I really want to know how to make those connections, because maybe there's that good energy of attraction, and then you get into that mindset of like, why me, why did you send that one to me, God?
Right.
I really gone through the framing, and then it's like I've learned so much in this of womanhood, and just and I want to just stress to our listeners that are listening, and viewers, that I want you to actually just share, just because I've heard in one of your lives about your take on, because you talk a lot about gender and roles, but I mean, there's some science to back that in terms of this. I love how you break it down with the whole sperm and the egg and the chase. Oh, I love it. Can you just break it down
Sure.
about the sperm, the egg, and the chase?
Absolutely. So I work with predominantly women, predominantly heterosexual women who have a traditional mindset of gender and their roles in gender. And so it is about the harmony and the balance of the masculine and feminine. And I like to simplify things by taking it back to the basics. Every single month since I was 12 years old, and I'm 43 now, every single month since I was 12 years old, I got a period. And when I get that period, what happens is that the egg that is ready for conception is positioned. It's positioned. It is placed, right? It's released from the ovaries. It is positioned. It is placed. It waits until conception happens. Conception doesn't happen, then that egg is, released and another one comes. When conception does happen, the egg never moves. The egg doesn't run anywhere. The egg doesn't go anywhere. It simply sits in its position and waits for those millions of sperm that have been released to chase each other, to run that race, to make it to, and that is the role of a woman who wants to be in relationship with a masculine man, who wants to be treated like a feminine woman, and who wants to reconnect to her divine feminine. All you do, Queen, is position. But we're out of alignment and out of balance because we have been chasing men. And what often happens is that the men that you do get when you chase, you recognize that you now have to play the masculine dominant role, and he is playing the feminine role. Where those roles are reversed, it leads to all sorts of anger, all sorts of disappointment, and all sorts of resentment, because he can never show up for you in the way that you want him to, because you were not in position from the beginning.
Yes, and I think that's what I experienced in that 2 years, that it really messed with my self-esteem, and I take accountability, responsibility for allowing that in, but having that disposition, it was not what you want. It's not what anybody wants. It's not healthy for what anybody wants. So it's, it's definitely, I appreciate everything that you're sharing today. And before we go, listeners, viewers, do you have any more questions, comments? I'm just going to comb through here quickly.
And I just want to say, it's not about judgment ever, right? So I don't ever want you to judge yourself, because there is no wrong, there is no right. Every decision is leading you to a place of elevation or improvement or correction if you choose to. So it's never about blaming or judging yourself. It's simply about learning and shifting where you need to.
I appreciate that. Very important. Okay. And, I want to know, what are the plans for Queendom, Sacred Queendom for 2023? What are your objectives, your goals, and how can our listeners, viewers, get a chance to connect with you with all that you're doing?
So I have a really big, which is a huge goal for 2023. I am committed to, and I have a goal of helping to create 1,000 marriage-minded Black women, because we have been through so much disappointment, because so many of us feel like we're not marriage material, right? That we're not the ideal beauties, that we're not the standard, and that marriage is off the table. And I want to turn that on its head. I want to help Black women recognize how valuable, how worthy, how deserving you are, and really that your worth and your value cannot be quantified. So no matter what you have, you always deserve more. That's what I want Black women to understand and to recognize. And I'm committed to creating 1,000 marriage-minded women this year. Also, I'm currently enrolling for my Sacred Queen Academy program. It's a 3-month coaching program where I personally work with clients, and we set up their dating and relationship strategies. And we focus on that trauma resolution and that personal healing, happiness, and wholeness, so that you can position with ease and know that no matter what else has happened in your life previously, you do not need to chase anyone.
And this is so important for both men and women. Your services is not, today, the chase is for us sisters today.
Yeah.
I chase over choosing, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Where you need to choose. Always understood it, I understood it from perspective that we used to look down at our warriors and choose, you know what I mean? But when you came with the physiological aspect of it, of these, these sperms competing against each other to, butt each other to the weight, but she's, you stand still.
That's
the
it.
egg stands still and, and chooses, but we, and I really building that self-worth within oneself. I think it just is not really, for healing in particular, requires not just yourself.
Yeah, I think you can't do it by yourself. You need support.
You definitely need the support.
Yeah. Definitely. And I think what happens is that because what is okay is for a woman to signal. So I always say you get to signal a man, right? Signal to him, let him know that you want him to want you or you're welcoming him into your space. But even in that, you still stay in your position. You stay in your femininity. And you can signal a man in the most subtle ways, just by eye contact, just by a smile, just by open body language. He's going to be able to read that and pick up on it. And then he will approach you without you having to leave your position. So learning those simple, subtle ways as well. And I think that so many women have lost the art of flirtation and don't know how to do that anymore. And so that's one of the things that I teach my clients as well.
Right. I've actually had to learn some of my male friends how to blush
Yeah.
and, just to be
To be
vulnerable. And if
coy.
girlfriend, you just blush, I'm just like,
Yeah.
and it's true. Like they just get all flustered when they see this hot guy, and I'm just like, oh, okay, just,
Yeah.
and, it seems some of us, again, those masculine roles, and then some of them, there's nothing wrong with it because it's actually a side of me that I'm not afraid of. Um, Acknowledge that I do have a lot of masculine from DJing to everything and sports, you name it. And not to say that those are masculine things, but those were masculine roles that have been set out there. But at the same time, even raising my children alone, I had to sometimes I even did the male voice to embody, demand attention. It didn't work, there's some real science to this. As even Rose Gold is saying, chasing is unnatural for women to do. It just really my dignity. It doesn't, you don't feel good if you're, and we need to be able to, I think, identify what does chasing look like, because a lot of us are not even willing to admit. Like, I think it should be, actually, I was showing the pen and paper, but like literally anytime we have these shows, get your pen and paper out because there's information to get, like nuggets of information. And I find that we have the answers amongst each other. But it's necessary for these relationships between both intimate and just people on a whole. This is going to impact work relationships by learning some finesse, some diplomacy, learning boundaries. A lot of us really don't know what it looks like. As simple as the 30-day rule, we always want to convince ourselves, of, tweak it a little bit, bend it a little over here, and it's still not going to work.
Right. Right.
It just doesn't. For very few.
And you get to make decisions that are in your best interest for the long run, not just for the moment.
Right. And the funny thing is, we can be stalked, sisters that are out there. When you're thirsty, you can be, all kinds of things could happen when we're in a rush for love. Stalked, STDs, STDs, you might have used a condom. Condoms can break. Things like that. There's some really harsh realities that come with, this systemic liberation of, womanhood, when in fact we have ways to do this, ways that your grandmothers taught you well.
Absolutely. And I have absolutely right. And I've actually worked with some clients specifically who have STDs and STIs, because when you have a diagnosis, that makes that feeling of unworthiness so much bigger, so much greater. And so then the behaviors often become riskier and more dangerous and more damaging, because the mindset is, well, if maybe they didn't want me before, they definitely don't want me now. So I have to take and accept anything that I can get. And that leads to physically abusive relationships and all types of other dangers, like you're saying. So I want every single woman to know, no matter what your past is, no matter what diagnosis you have, no matter what you have experienced, your value and your worth can never be quantified, because it is innate, it is inherent, and it is divine. And you deserve even more than you are aware of.
Yes. And that changing those thoughts can be really helped, I feel, with.
Absolutely, right. And having the self-control to position, to be the chooser and not to do the chasing.
You hear that, ladies? Fila Antwine. Fila Antwine, before we go, tell our listeners where we can get in touch with you, spell it out. Yeah, your
Absolutely.
books.
So across all platforms, I am at She Is Fila. So that's SHE. She, IS is Fila. My name, FILA. So on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok, on Facebook, She Is Fila, and Fila Antwine. And you can find all the information about working with me, coaching the Sacred Queendom and Sacred Queen Academy on my website at filaantwine.com. That's FILAANTWINE.com. filaantwine.com.
Okay. Well,
And my
Fila,
DMs are always open. So if anyone wants to hop over, has a question, you can always DM me, and I'm in there myself as well.
just look at the top there and just follow her and, get in touch with her because I'm telling you, just go through the wall. But that, as you said, is going to be changing, because you have the master classes
Yes.
ready and curated. Oh, we do have a question here.
Sure.
It's funny, this person had this question asked. What do you think about men that ask, what do you bring to the table?
I think those are men that you need to walk past. They don't warrant an answer from you, because a healthy masculine man who knows his role is not concerned with what a woman is bringing to the table. He is going to tell that woman, I will build the table for you. And whatever you have, you get to lay it out on that table. But a healthy, a secure, a confident masculine man is not concerned with what his woman is bringing to the table. He is concerned with how well she'll be able to provide emotional support, how good of a mother she'll be, how she can make the house a home, and how she can decorate the table once he provides it.
Thank you.
We don't even answer those questions. Next.
I got upset online with a brother one time, and he asked, what do you have to offer? And I told him a sheep. I'm going to bring you a lamb, a sacrifice. Oh, I appreciate you, because this is like literally something that, sometimes I'm wondering if I'm being biased with gender roles and what have you. But I know there's a saying where it goes, you give a woman a seed, she will give you a child. You give a woman a house, she'll give you a home. You give her food, she'll give you a meal, and it is real, brothers. There is some levels of expectation, and I feel the men would feel like, the males will feel like men. I only call men men. The males will feel like men when they are in the right positioning, in the right position in the circle of life,
Yeah. There's a lot of dissension online, and I don't believe that. I choose not to believe that this is how it is in our actual community, but I know that online and in certain forums, there's so much dissension and anger between Black men and Black women. And all that is an indication of hurt. All that is an indication of insecurity. All that is an indication of pain. That's all that shows. If a man asks you those types of questions, what he's saying to you is, I am hurt and I have not healed my trauma. That's it. So don't take it personal, ladies, because it is not about you.
It's hard. I find, though, it's hard for the men to see that they need healing. There's a lot of, you said it, that they're insecure.
Yeah.
And to really, they can get all vexed with you if you really come straight with that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And one of the conversations that we don't often have, because it's a little taboo, is that those men in our community who have those hurts and who are insecure and who don't want it brought to their attention will leave our community and find women elsewhere who are not going to hold them accountable.
Sorry. It is what it is.
What it is.
I appreciate your boldness, your candor, because in all honesty, we really need to talk about these items openly. We are apologetic in when we talk about these items, about different ethnicities, making ourselves matter. There's examples like when a sister asks, she gets a warm drink, she's paying like $8 for the drink, and she gets her drink and it's warm, and she says, excuse me, if I could just get a cold drink, you know, she's acting, you know, she's, you know, a drama queen. She's gaslighting ethnicity, behaves a certain way. So I know we don't got time to talk about that, but I just want, because I do want to talk about another time is, you know,
Absolutely.
what we judge so harshly by these broken males. But I didn't, why are we judge so harshly? Why is there such a strict agreement? As you said, they will go outside somewhere else. That woman that is willing to take care of them to, step out of the role. I have a poem where it says, you know, detaching her soul as she's playing some strange role. What she brings on, but is it love she's really found because he never has no cash or he needs a place to crash. He holds, still he makes her cry. If it's true love, can it?
That's so,
you know, and
so powerful, so beautiful. And when the thing is, the one thing, the primary thing, is that a man who does not want to see himself is never going to stand in front of a mirror. And that's it.
So we got to leave him. They just got to go.
Some of them, yes. Some of them do. And when they're ready to come back, right? When they're healed, they are going to stand on their roles and in their place and be accountable and be responsible and admit their insecurities and their issues and get help, then we welcome them back. But it is like a cancer. When there is a cancer within the body, it's a rogue cell. Nourish and nurture that cell, because when that cell grows, it kills all the other cells. So what do? You get rid of the cancer so that you can heal the whole. And you let those others have those men who do not have the strength or the integrity or the ability to do the work that they need to do on themselves so that they can stand in front of us and see themselves.
Wow, that is powerful. Yeah. We appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I look forward to future conversations. You know, I have a pile of questions. And again, listeners, you can find Fila Antwine on all platforms as she is Fila.
Yes.
And yeah, it's time for us to heal. It's time to build healthy relationships. It's necessary. It's fun at large. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yes, and I always have to say thank you for making a decision to follow your vision. One love.
One love. Good night.
Good night. Good night.